Hi, gang. Donna here. Today I have the pleasure of interviewing 18-year-old autistic Ben Levin. He wrote a novel called In the Hole. And In the Hole talks about teenage homelessness. He takes us on a journey from a child having a normal life to ending up on the streets with his family. He also wants us to know that autism is a gift and not a curse. And we discuss how some things, well, you shouldn't put a label on it because a label sometimes keeps you down and keeps you in a box when we're all very capable of doing something. So listen to his amazing story. Hi, Ben. How are you doing today?
I'm good, Donna. How are you?
I'm good. So you are an author, but you're only 18, and this isn't your first book, but this is your first breakout book.
Yes, that's correct. All of it.
Um,
I actually appreciate you acknowledging that because even though I get how self-published books kind of don't count, it does kind of annoy me when people, well, annoys the wrong word, but it kind of gets on my nerves when people call In the Hole my first book when it's only my first professionally published book.
I completely understand. I have two books that I've self-published, and at 18, like yourself, I was writing, but back then we didn't have the option to self-publish. So I understand completely. But there's also something. You're also autistic, correct?
Yes.
And I was reading here that there have been times in your life where you felt like you couldn't definitely pursue your dreams because of that. But then once you wrote your first book when you were younger, somebody's like you were following your dreams. And that kind of motivated you to do it more. So why don't you tell me a little bit about that?
About the dreams issue?
Yeah, about not feeling adequate, and what made you decide that I can do this.
Hmm.
Does that make sense?
I guess for me, that's kind of complicated because my here's the truth about my feelings about it. I've never felt completely, to use your word, incapable of following my dreams, but I have felt inferior to neurotypicals and non-autistic people at times. And that's really what I've struggled with. I've, but what I think you're getting to with the conversation is when my first self-published book, Ghost Wars, was published, I, my friend told me about how the fact that my dream had came true inspired him to work harder for his own dream. And that inspired me to want to be an advocate to help other people believe that dreams really do come true.
And that's very good to be an advocate. Um, your book In the Hole, you deal with homelessness. How did that come about that you decided to tackle that issue and be an advocate for that?
So I was in religious school in 8th grade, and my rabbi was showing my class one day in February a video about children who are facing homelessness in Florida. Seeing the video touched something in me, and it made me want to help. And I thought maybe if I wrote a book about homelessness, it could help me raise awareness and help fight against homelessness.
And has your book been well received?
It has been. I feel like I've gotten a lot of great reviews, both on Amazon and Goodreads, and from individuals. There was only one review that talked about how In the Hole's a little too extreme, which I personally don't agree with. If anything, I think In the Hole doesn't covered homelessness enough. In fact, when I interviewed a couple of women who had both previously faced homelessness for In the Hole, I felt like my main character David's story didn't even begin to compare with their stories. And that made me feel like I hadn't portrayed it authentically, even though both women told me that it was okay. I don't remember what exactly they said, but that it was fine and that it could work as an intro to what homelessness is really like. But In the Hole has been really well received. I've gotten a lot of good feedback, which I really appreciate.
Homelessness, for whether it be a teen or an adult, it's going to be different for a man and a woman also. So that's most likely why the ladies that you interviewed were saying it was a little bit different for them. But it's an empowering book for the sheer fact that if you can get that message out to the younger audience so they can know that maybe the person sitting next to them at school is going through something that they have no comprehension of understanding. So that's a gift that you've been able to give people. What other types of books have you written?
I pride myself with being able to write in all different kinds of genres. Mostly, I write children's and middle grade books. In the Hole is one of my few young adult books. I tend to write about four different subjects a lot: animals, friendship, sports, and history. I One of my most beloved series, Nellie's Friends, which has 4 books self-published, is about a girl named Nellie who moved to Illinois from New York when she was 9. And because she lost all of her friends in the move, her favorite hobby became making new friends. In each book, she makes a new friend. It's one of my most loved series, and it's my longest one too. There are 44 books in it.
Wow. So how many, and you said you have 4 out?
Yeah,
So you still have 40 books to write?
40 books. Here's the truth. I've written a lot of stories and books, but most of them are actually skeletons of books that need to be meat.
I
I
understand.
still have 40 books to plump up, I guess.
I understand. I completely understand.
Another book I wrote, which was for my 5th grade teacher's son, is called Ollie in the Race. It's about a boy who received a race car for his 5th birthday, and then a fairy came and transformed it into a real one before bringing him to a magical forest where he raced against a bunch of other little boys in race cars. And it's a good story which talks about teamwork.
Nice. So what inspired that story?
What inspired it was I was in 5th grade and I was talking with my teacher. My teacher was saying what her 2 kids knew everyone in my class for. She didn't mention me, and I felt a little miffed at that. And they said, "So they don't know who I am?" And she went, "Oh, they know Ben the writer. In fact, I was half hoping you'd write a story for them." And then Ollie and the Race kind of fell in my head. I chose to write about I'm not completely sure I'm comfortable sharing the next part.
Okay, then don't. It's fine. If you're not comfortable, it's okay.
But the Ollie in the Race was really well received by her son Sebastian. He ended up asking his mom to read it every night for an entire week.
Nice. Nice. So, what do you plan on writing next?
I tend to work on a lot of different stories at a time. So currently, I'm working on a number of different things. I recently started writing a story about a boy growing up during World War II. I'm also writing a series about a reading and writing club and a biography of the Wright brothers. Plus, I'm also attempting to give musical writing a try.
Nice. Do you, for your books like on the Wright brothers in World War II, how much research do you do?
I've actually done about 20 different biographies prior to the Wright brothers, and I've written historical fictions before. So when I was in middle school, I was very into biographies, so I read a lot of them, and I usually got my information from those books. I was a particularly huge fan of the Who Was books, which is where I got a lot of information from. However, I tended to get other books from the library, and if I couldn't find any that seemed in a comfortable reading level for me, then I'd find a YouTube documentary about whoever I was writing about to watch.
So, like the book where you're writing about someone who has gone through World War II, have you read other books of people's experience for that?
Yes.
So you can place yourself as that character in or into that situation.
Yeah.
So when did you know that you were different?
I guess I had that understanding of myself for a long time. I I don't really have a clear answer for that, but I do remember as a kid, I often thought I thought differently and asked myself, why am I? Something just felt a little different about me. I didn't find out specifically about my autism until I started doing Sunrise, and I overheard my brother mention it to my mom, and that kind of gave me an explanation, even though it took me years to really understand what autism actually is.
As a person who has not really experienced autism, what would you tell me so I could understand? If you don't mind asking or answering.
I don't mind. I I'm still kind of new at interviews, so
Take your time.
sometimes I really need to get better at preparing for questions.
It's okay. If you can't answer, that's okay. I'm just
I do want to answer though.
okay. Then go ahead as best as you can.
Autism is a different ability. We are not all the same any more than neurotypical are all the same. And we all have different types of social skills. Most of us, if not all of us, are creative, even though I'm want to be careful when saying this so as to not erase anyone's story, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
And all we want is acceptance.
I think that's not to diminish what you're saying at all. I think everybody wants to be accepted for who they are, and I think that a lot of times in our world we don't accept people if they're slightly different or if they think differently or they look differently. And that's something that really bothers me because we put a label on people, and we shouldn't, because we're all human. We may function differently, we may think differently, we may look different, but we're all human when we get down to it.
Yeah.
And it's a point of breaking through those labels and breaking through those compartments or boxes that they put people in, and showing that you are capable and being able to function for you, that you can pursue your dreams, that you can be a writer, and you can do interviews, and you're doing what you can do, and you're enjoying your life. And I think when we look at people that are on the spectrum, we don't necessarily always see them fully as who they are. But that being said, we don't normally see even the neurotypical people. They're not always seen as they are, because even for myself, when I was in school, I didn't necessarily learn like everybody else did. I've had another lady on that I interviewed, and she's neurotypical, but she told me she couldn't, when she was at school, she would ask her teachers if she could create a dance instead of doing this certain project, because she couldn't do it. She couldn't comprehend. She had dyslexia. And so she'd go out and she'd do her dance and she'd create it and she'd come back in and do it for the class. And that's how she ended up going through school. So I think when we look at education and we look at learning, everybody learns differently. Even the normal, the people that are allegedly normal, we all think differently.
Yes.
And I mean, something in your bio I kind of relate to, because you said your characters just come to you. As a writer, if I wake up in the middle of the night and I allow my mind to open up, my characters will come, and I won't be able to go back to sleep because they're there and they want me to write. So I understand that.
That is really relatable. Sometimes I stay up all night thinking about characters and I wake up really early too. I call it the writer's curse.
And it is. And most people that aren't writers don't understand that. They don't understand how, yes, you're a normal functioning person, but there's these people in your head that are taking up residence that want you to write. And that's what happens sometimes. And a lot of people don't understand that. So, what else do you like to do besides write?
I love listening to music, especially the Beatles. I like going on walks. I love going on walks, actually. I also enjoy reading and spending time with my friends, as well as exercising, even though sometimes I don't do a lot of a few of those things. There's just stuff I enjoy every now and then, or whenever feels right, I guess.
Is there a particular place that you hope to go visit one day?
Are you talking about college?
College or just vacation?
Hmm, good question. I've never really been a traveler. I've always preferred a quiet life at home. My dream vacation is this gorgeous inn called Bear Mountain Lodge, which has this beautiful nature view with the woods and a lovely lake and is the perfect place to write. However, there are a lot of historical sites I'd to see. I would love to go to Amsterdam and see Anne Frank's secret annex. I would love to see Underground Railroad stops. I would love to go to the Rosa Parks Museum and see the famous bus. There are so many places I'd love to see.
You mentioned college, so are you planning on going?
Yes, very much so.
And what school are you thinking about going to?
I want to go to Fairleigh Dickinson University. I already sent in my application and I don't know if I'm going to get in, but I really hope I do.
What are you going to major in?
Creative writing.
I kind of figured, but thought I should ask. Um, do you plan on trying to get your book traditionally published?
In the whole or
In the whole or a future work?
in the whole is traditionally.
Okay, I'm sorry.
It's okay. I understand.
But do you plan on doing this continually with your other books that are coming?
Yes, I am planning on getting the Nellie's Friends books that have already been self-published plus book 5 professionally done. Part of me is hoping to also do Ollie and the Race, even though part of me has this barrier that might be in the way. I don't know for sure that they'll accept the illustrations, which were done by a friend of mine, which are really good, but aren't entirely professional. So I'm not sure if they're going to want their own illustrator, but I don't feel comfortable with that.
Understand.
And I am half hoping to get other books professionally done too. One book which I'm thinking I'm going to do next is The Story of David's Friend Gloria, which talks about not only homelessness but also racism.
Okay. So basically you wanting to be an advocate on many avenues then for many things.
Yeah, I write about a lot of different things, even though I know what my 4 favorite things to write about are.
Have you thought about writing a book about autism?
Sometimes. I have a friend who's also an autistic author. He's written, he includes a lot of neurodiverse and autistic characters in his stories, which I'm actually a little jealous of because I've I've kind of held back on including autistic characters in my stories, especially since up until 7 months ago, I didn't even think I had autism. I thought it was a thing of my past. And because I knew people didn't think that autism could be recovered from, which is what I thought I had. I can go into more of that later. I was keeping it a secret. But yes, I do want to write more about autism.
So is there such a thing as autism recovery?
No, here's the thing. I did this program in elementary school where where the goal was to try and get autistic kids to want to connect more with the world around them. However, my family misinterpreted this as something intended on curing my autism. And when I was 11, after years of doing Sunrise, I did this test, which was complete baloney, uh, to see how autistic I still was. And when I was done with the test, it said I wasn't autistic anymore, something which really confused me. I also started having insecurity because I didn't understand what it meant to have recovered from autism. And I felt like the fact that I'd even once been autistic made me less than human. This in eighth grade, after switching schools, I got into an argument with a friend about whether or not you can recover from autism. And for 3.5 years after that, because I knew most people didn't believe you could, I went from being someone who told probably everyone. People tend to be a little too open-minded at the school I used to go to someone who was afraid to tell anyone because he didn't want to be seen as a crazy liar. It felt liberating that no one knew.
Mhm.
However, last around a year ago, I started feeling stifled by the fact that I was scared to tell people. And then 5 months after that, I had a conversation with a close relative about whether or not autism is lifelong, and he said it was. And after that, I spent a really intense weekend trying to figure out what it truly meant to be autistic. And by the end of it, I was able to accept that while Sunrise did give me a lot of social skills I never would have gotten otherwise, and is probably also part of how I became a writer, it did not remove my autism, but that I shouldn't want it to remove my autism, and that autism is something I should be proud of. I've been trying to embrace the gifts about it more ever since, such as my writing skills, which I do think came from my autism, and close friends I have who are also on the spectrum. I decided to let my secret out with an Instagram post for Autism Awareness Month, or as it should be called, Autism Acceptance Month. And I was blown away last April when I did and got so much support. And ever since then, I really want to help fight for my community and help more people understand autism isn't a curse, it's a gift, and to remove so many of the self esteem struggles which many people on the spectrum still have. I want to protect and fight for my community.
I have a lot of friends who have been ostracized or pushed out of the group because of something they've done. I have a friend who she's in Australia and she could see energy. So she could look at a tree and see the energy in the tree. And I know that may seem silly, but she could do this. And when she was a little girl, she could see all these things, but yet she had to keep it to herself because she was scared that they were going to take her and lock her away in a mental institution. So she kept it all hidden and kept it all buried inside. And eventually she started getting physically sick because she wasn't being true to herself. So the reason I say this is I'm glad that you had the power to speak your truth because that is a very valuable gift. So
Yeah, it it felt so liberating to do it.
and the thing is when you are honest about who you are you tend to find others that are familiar with your experience.
Exactly. That is so true.
And that's where you gain your support, is by sharing and being honest with other people.
I agree.
So I take it you're in high school now, correct?
Yeah, I'm a senior.
So when do you graduate? Next May?
June.
June? Okay. Some people it's May, depends on what state you live in. So
I live in
um
New Jersey.
yeah. Um so then you plan on hopefully going to college.
Yes.
And where's the school that you were mentioning at? Is that New Jersey as well?
Yeah.
So it's close to home.
Yeah, I want one that's close enough that I can visit on weekends, but far away enough that I have to live on campus.
Makes sense. And that way you can learn different strategies of living then for the
Yeah.
future.
My but when but after college, what I'm hoping to do is move to a town nearby in New York called Chestnut Ridge, where I grew up. I've made a lot of really good memories there, and I think that I'd really like living there during my adulthood.
So you mentioned that you like writing about sports.
hmm
What kind of sports do you like?
I f- I don't watch a lot of sports, even though during 2019 I was glued to my television watching the MLB.
Mhm.
But I do love reading about sports. I love Mike Lupica's baseball and basketball books. I recently found this author, James Feinstein, I think that's how you pronounce his name, who wrote the Triple Threat series. And I recently had the honor of reading his book, The Sixth Man, which I loved, even though there were some complicated feelings I had about it, which we're not going to get into. And I feel like the sport I tend to do the most writing about is basketball. And in the whole, David uh, David's loves baseball and basketball. He lives and breathes them. And I also manage my school soccer team as a way to get better at writing soccer stories.
How does it feel to have that kind of responsibility on you with managing a soccer team?
It's fun. I what I do mostly is I help collect balls or I take care of times and equipment.
Understand.
And I've made some really good friendships through managing.
Awesome. Um, so you're mentioning your main character in the whole. Why, when you're, I have not read your book, but does the book start off with him already being homeless, or
No,
okay? So you take him all the way on the journey from having a normal life and then having that completely flipped upside down.
yeah, he has the way in the whole starts. Hope it's okay that I'm giving a spoiler. He has a nice afternoon playing with his best friend in the park, and then he comes home, and when he asks for a new hat because his hat landed in
Okay.
duck poop.
Mhm.
Uh, he wants a new one, but his family can't afford it. And his mom explains to him that his dad recently lost his job.
Okay. So then you take him on to the journey of them going through all that, which is a lot of changes and a lot of stress and a lot of anxiety. I mean, going through losing your home would be a lot of anxiety for anybody.
You're right.
So when do you see your next book coming out?
We might get some of the Nellie's Friends books done professionally in December. I don't know for sure, but it's looking pretty likely.
Nice.
I think we're going to do a lot of Nellie's Friends books over the next several years.
Okay.
And I'm hoping that I'll get Gloria's story, Gloria being David's friend's story, sometime during my first 2 years of college.
Wow, so you're going to be really busy going to school and writing. That's going to be a big deal.
It might not be the most realistic. Realistic's a word I despise, by the way, but it's something I really want to at least give a try.
Understand. So you like the Beatles. What do you like about the Beatles?
Listening to their music gives me hope and calms me down.
Okay.
And I have a close friend who also really loves the Beatles. So it was Beatles was something for us to bond over.
And that's important. It's important to be able to bond with other people and friends.
You're right.
So is there anything you would want to tell anybody in the audience about your books or autism that we haven't covered?
I do want to say something about In the Hole, something that's really important that people get out of In the Hole. Homelessness can happen to anyone, even children, including children.
Yeah, it's a very true statement.
And I have 4 desires with my writing: to raise awareness for causes I believe in, such as homelessness, to bring happiness to people by having them enjoy my writing, to encourage others to follow their dreams, and to help be an example of how autistic people can do anything and how people should not believe otherwise.
And that's a pretty powerful statement there. Because as we were talking about earlier, everybody's got differences.
You're
and
right.
you shouldn't look at a label and say, well, you can't do that because. So go ahead.
I said so true.
I thank you for your time. And, this has been an interesting interview, and I appreciate the time that you took to sit down with me. Thanks, guys, for tuning in to the Better 2 podcast. Your listenership is greatly appreciated. If you like what you hear, remember to hit subscribe. We also have our videos on YouTube. They're usually posted the same day as the podcast, and you should check it out. If you have a question or you would like to be a guest on the show, please drop me an email, and I'll be glad to talk to you about it. The email is Donna, Dauna, at thebetter2podcast.com. Thanks again for tuning in, and catch you next time.